Jesus 911.
Jesus 911, where iron sharpens iron and one man sharpens another. And Jesse, I thought that the meat of this article, the story, it's right where it says an informed patriotism is what we want. It really gives us, it tells us what Ronald Reagan said about in his farewell address as president in January 1989. Are we doing a good enough job teaching our children what America is and what she represents in the long history of the world? Then he issued a warning. He said, those of us who are over 35 or so years of age grew up in a different America. We were taught very directly and what it means to be an American, and we absorbed almost in the air a love of country and appreciation of its institutions. If you didn't get these things from your family, you got them from the neighborhood, from the father down the street who fought in Korea, or the family who lost someone in Anzio, or you could get a sense of patriotism from school. And if all else failed, you could get a sense of patriotism from the popular culture. The movie celebrated democratic values and implicitly reinforced the idea that America was special. TV was like that, too, like through the 60s. Remember, you had the Leave It to Beaver and All in the Family, Our Father Knows Best, and things like that, really clean programs. But now we're about to enter, and Reagan's saying this, we're about to enter the 90s and some things have changed. Younger parents aren't sure that an unambivalent appreciation of America is the right thing to teach modern children. And so those who create the popular culture, well-grounded patriotism is no longer the style. And we see that right now. But patriotism, I think, made a comeback, Jesse, with President Trump in the MAGA movement. And Reagan says, we've got to do a better job of getting across that America is freedom of speech, freedom of religion, freedom of enterprise, and freedom is special and rare. It's fragile. It needs protection. So we've got to teach history based on what's not what's in fashion, but what's important. Why the Pilgrims came here, who Jimmy Doolittle was, and those 30 seconds over Tokyo, what that meant. He says 4 years ago, on the 40th anniversary of D-Day, he read a letter from a young woman writing to her late father who'd fought on Omaha Beach. She said, quote, "We will always remember, we will never forget what the boys of Normandy did." Well, let's help her keep her word. If we forget what we did, we won't know who we are. I'm warning of an eradication of the American memory that could result ultimately in an erosion of the American spirit.
Very well put. Well put. Going back, my final thoughts on 1984 before we move on is, again, this movie written in the 40s by George Orwell. It's a dystopian movie. Just like Brave New World or The Hideous Strength. It talks about a totalitarian world in 1984. And before the 20th century, people didn't know what totalitarian was. We really started discovering it acutely with World War I, World War II. But this was definitely something that was unknown, like to people like Aristotle and the ancients. But totalitarianism is a form of government that reaches further than tyranny because it attempts to control the totality of things. And so in the movie 1984, in the book as well, the government is trying to control people's thoughts. That's what we see today. They're trying to control our thoughts through the censoring of social media, saying you conservatives can't use this, you can't do that. We're going to take down Parler. And by the way, I want to give some recognition. I usually don't. Angela Merkel, I think the Prime Minister from Germany, just spoke out against banning Trump from Twitter. Yeah. So that's a good sign because
she's no friend of Trump's either.
Yeah, she's no friend of Trump. She's a woman of the left. But the fact is she's saying, oh, wait a minute, this goes way too far, even for a lefty like me.
Yeah. Even Mexico said the same thing, the president of Mexico.
And he's a lefty.
Yeah.
He's a lefty. In fact, I just read an article that Mexico's moving into communism.
Oh.
I'll share that article next week. But and also you also have, who's the guy that made Tesla, Ruben? What's his name? That billionaire?
Yeah.
he also tweeted that Twitter is something negative about Twitter.
Elon Musk, yeah.
Elon Musk, and so people are pushing back. You have that famous Harvard lawyer. That's he's a Democrat as well. He's on.
Elon Musk.
Yeah, Elon Musk. My wife just shouted. You also have who's the Harvard lawyer that defended O.J. Simpson? He's always on television.
Jeez.
You know what I'm talking about. He's got glasses.
Of course.
He's also speaking out against. He's speaking out against the fact that big tech is censoring Trump. He says this is absolutely wrong. What is it? Who is it? Dershowitz. Thanks, babe. Dershowitz.
You got an encyclopedia right there.
Yeah. Hey, you know what? I can't remember everything, but in the movie 1984 with Orwell, again, they're trying to control people's thoughts, much like right now. So they got hidden cameras and microphones, and they call them telescreens everywhere. So nearly everything you do is watched and heard. And that's how the thought police controls people. That's much like today, Ruben. I can just imagine through all the satellites out there, and if you have an iPhone, if you got a smart TV, we're probably all being watched.
Oh, yeah.
And now, so in the movie 1984, again, the protagonist, Winston Smith, he works for the state, and his job is to rewrite history, but he kind of rebels towards the end. He knows that he's being watched when he's working by the telescreen in front of him that watches everything he does. But towards the end, he breaks protocol, and they end up arresting him and torturing him. And instead of, he thought they're just going to put a gun behind my head and execute me. No, they tortured him and they broke him, and they essentially made him say, because the goal of the state of Big Brother in the movie 1984 is to make you say 2 + 2 is 5. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and they'll do whatever it takes to break you, to make you say 2 + 2 is 5. And Ruben, that's where we're at right now. I mean, I don't know what type of levers the left would use right now, but again, they live in a world of unreality. When they're saying a boy is not, no, that's not a boy, that's a girl. No, that's a boy, and I'm a he, she, or I'm a unisex, or I'm transgender, or marijuana is medicine, abortion is health care, abortion is. All this stuff, Ruben, it's a world of unreality, and I think we've entered now into the world of 1984. That's my take.
Yeah, Jesse, that's this whole rewrite history, the Biden's theme, Build Back Better. This is what it's about. It's about getting rid of all those things and people and places. They're tearing down statues. They want to change names of colleges are being changed. Football,
military
teams,
bases,
everything. Yeah. Military bases. There's so much that there's good and bad in every people and everybody. So our founding fathers, they weren't perfect. There was, guys like Jefferson and they did some really good things. He wanted to eradicate slavery, and he had slaves, but he knew that it was wrong.
Ruben, it just happened to be a universal institution at his time. So you're going against the entire world. Can you imagine? No, it was just a universal institution.
Yeah.
Everybody had slaves in every country.
Yeah.
At that time. And people think like they have selective history. They say, oh, the founding fathers had slaves. How about everybody had slaves? How about, in fact, where did the white Europeans buy the slaves from? From black slave owners in Africa.
That's right.
The blacks enslaved blacks in Africa. And by the way, they still do right now.
Yeah.
Okay? There's still tribalism in Africa. And by the way, I'll tell you one religion that hasn't gotten the memo of slavery. It's Islam. They still practice slavery right now.
Mm-hmm. Nobody critiques them, right? The left doesn't critique them.
No, they and the term that they use is that in Islamic countries under Sharia law, Christians and Jews and anybody who's not a Muslim, they're called dhimmis. And a dhimmi it's just basically you're a second class citizen.
Yeah.
and you have to pay higher taxes. You got to keep your mouth shut. You're beholden to your the Islamic State, and so you live in kind of this subjective, slavery to the Islamic Sharia law system, and you're a second-class citizen to Muslims. And so, Ruben, this is still being practiced right now.
Yeah. A patria, or the land of one's father, it requires a certain kind of reverence, which is personal but extends beyond the family. And the reverence we give our country, and this is what St. Thomas says, that, quote, includes homage to all our fellow citizens and to all the friends of our country. And, one's own country is something between the common good of the family and the highest good of friendship with God. Our country is thus, or should be, an object of love situated in the middle of things, an excellent good which brings us benefits, and that we share in common with other human beings. Each of these debts to God, to family, to country are very good debts indeed, and the good can never be in competition with each other. St. Thomas concludes, he says, quote, man is debtor chiefly to his parents and his country, after God. Wherefore, just as it belongs to religion to give worship to God, so it belongs to piety, in the second place, to show reverence to one's parents and one's country. That was the great St. Thomas.
This is Jesse Romero, Catholic Lay Evangelist, and I want to thank you for watching this video on Virgin Most Powerful Radio. Make sure you leave a like and a comment on the video. Also, don't forget to subscribe. Find out how to receive exclusive content in the description below, and always remember to take the information you gathered from this video and evangelize everyone you know. Thank you, and full sheen ahead.